And note this, we have been doing this on Mondays. We are going to make it now Monday and Thursday.
The protests are back with the threat of being twice a week if dialogue is not reached. Public relations or political relations, some would say one and the same thing. Was the State House meeting all for the cameras?
Monday, mimi niko na tear gas ya kutosha.
Friends or foes, Kenya Ajui will be analyzing the hate-love relationship between government leaders and the opposition. Now let me introduce you to my panel, and I'll start my immediate left here. We have Dr. Hannington Gaya. He is the Media Owners Association chairperson and also wears other hats, and especially relevant to this discussion today in terms of mediation on the way forward for the IEBC stalemate. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you,
next to him is a kind lady for the first time. We have Carol Werunga. She is the Programs Advisor for Electoral Governance at the Kenya Human Rights Commission, also a part of the Kura Yangu, Sauti Yangu campaign that started in February. She'll be telling us a bit more about that. And Mr. Macharia Gaido, for the first time with the blazer, looking good, sir. Thank you for joining us again. And the man who's now worn the latest hat is presidential aspirant as leader of Third Way Alliance Kenya. And as you well know, he has been the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Selection Panel chairperson and also the director of the Committee of Experts, which was responsible for writing the new Constitution of Kenya that we celebrate today and live by, or at least try to. And that is why they are part of this panel, because we are all matters IEBC. And as today, in what was termed as peaceful protests, at least one person was reported killed and 46 others injured in Kisumu. There were incidents in and around Nairobi, but court maintains their anti-IEBC protests were largely peaceful and are laying blame on the police for the lives lost, or at least the life lost that has been confirmed. In case you missed it, here's a record of events in Kisumu today.
Trouble began after some demonstrators attempted to break a police cordon to gain entry into the IEBC offices. Firing incessantly in the air, police dispersed the protesters. But the angry demonstrators retaliated by pelting the law enforcers with stones. For close to 15 minutes, the battle raged on. And after the guns went silent, a man, only identified as M.O.A, laid prostrate in the middle of Kenyatta Highway, blood oozing from his chest. Another protester took a bullet through the stomach and was rushed to Kisumu County Hospital, where 23 other people with gunshot injuries were admitted. 22 more, including this 4-year-old boy by the name Jeremy Otieno, were taken to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital with bullet wounds. The protesters who barricaded most of the roads in the town set alight a vehicle used as an M.P.E.S.A shop.
Kanisa imesema haina imani na IEBC. Kenya National Human Rights Commission wamesema hawana imani na IEBC. Wamesema hawana imani na IEBC. Kwa hivyo kama wakazi wa Kisumu tumejitokeza nje kufanya maandamano ya maana leo.
2 supermarkets suffered the wrath of the irate youths who went about damaging property. By 1 p.m., police were forced to deploy the 2 water cannons recently acquired in a bid to quell the day-long riots. Huko Kusa, NTV, Kisumu.
That's just the context of what happened today. And just to get a quick reaction from the panel, I'll start with Carol Werunga. You've heard the sentiment there of the gentleman from Kisumu. He named all the different stakeholders that have purportedly expressed their disbelief in the credibility of the IEBC. First of all, as the Kenya Human Rights Commission, would you clarify your position on whether you believe there's credibility with the IEBC?
First of all, I would want to say that this is a broader issue of public confidence or the trust in our institution. And what comes to my mind is the issue of IEBC is a public institution. And when it goes to the back to the people and people start talking about we don't have trust, so what does it mean for 2017 elections, for example? So you will hear that people saying that, you know, for example, he has mentioned that the church do not have the confidence in the institution.
Right.
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which is the national commission, that is not the NGO that I work for, the Kenya Human Rights Commission. But all in all, he's talking about what is a very critical issue that we are not talking about, and this is the trust in our public institutions.
Right.
And as we speak about IEBC issue, we need to be very clear. If we talk about IEBC, what are we talking about?
All right. Let me pause you on
Yes.
that, because there's a question here. Is it really about the IEBC? And if you may pass me that copy of the Star. And I don't know if we've all been able to read through it, if my colleague can actually grab a shot of this. This is Saturday's headliner there of the Star newspaper. And it says, Raila wants Prime Minister position back. And one asks, is it more than just what we're hearing or seeing? I'll throw it to you.
I think, Mark, commenting on that, if you recall Raila's speech when he went to Northeastern, he even said he has no problem with Hassan, even revealed to Kenyans for the first time that he was instrumental in Hassan's appointment. Okay. So what are the issues? And IEBC could have serious credibility issue, the way Caroline has said, because there are a number of dimensions that you need to organize a credible, fair and free election. And it's a question of perception. Right. Out of the 11 dimensions, credibility of the electoral body is an issue, and that's an issue of perception. So where 50% of a country, you can say 50% of your customers have not trust you, you should actually opt out. It is not a normal parastatal or a body that you can cling to. This is a serious issue where perception matters. Perception matters. This kind of public office, also the issue of public goodwill, it matters. What's the need of presiding over an election that you know very well 50% of the people will not even agree? And for me, I feel it is even in the interest of those who have numbers to ensure they've got a credible body, so that when they win, they can enjoy that win because of the body that conducted that. A
diplomatic answer you've given me there. And my question was really, do you think there's much more to what meets the eye through what is hitting the airwaves or what's on the print, what Kenyans are hearing? Macharia, your opinion?
I think you referred specifically to that headline in the Star.
Yes.
I don't know what their source of information is, because the story does not make it clear. Well, on the one hand, there's nothing wrong in having a prime minister or in Raila wanting to be prime minister again. But I do not know whether there is any evidence that that is what he is tabling, and whether that is the source of all this agitation.
Okay.
So it is not clear. And in any case, I think it would be foolish for him or anyone else to raise that campaign at this time, because then you would lose all credibility yourself if you are going to rouse the country simply because you want a position. I don't think Raila is that foolish.
Okay. Let me ask Ekuru, as you give me your impressions of what you've seen in the events today, someone following the developments ever since the protests started would say there is an agenda to this, and whatever they're pushing for seems to be much bigger than what meets the eye or what we're hearing. Your interpretation of what's playing out.
I think for me, we shouldn't forget that the issue about an electoral management body that we can trust is a historical one.
Yes.
This is not the first time that we are questioning the credibility of an electoral management body or the call for its disbandment. It's been there. I mean, we saw the disbandment of the ECK. We saw, calls for reform, the IPPG processes. So there is a historical issue in this particular context. And that really boils down to the question of the deep-seated trust deficit in the management of our election. Now, in the current status, actually, I do not think we should read more anything from this headline. Because like Gaido said, it doesn't really say much. And I think it will be foolish of anybody at this stage in time looking at the Constitution and where Kenya is in the context of, in the light of the impending election, that you can even propose such a title. But having said that, I think for me, we are really missing the bigger point in terms of this IEBC. The way the discourse is going on, Mark, we need, the first point I really would like Kenyans to be able to engage is, are we able to separate the institution of the IEBC from individual transgressions of the commissioners or the directors or whoever is concerned? I think for me, that's really, we are missing that fundamental point. But also where Kenya has reached right now, we have reduced the contestation around IEBC to either being Jubilee or CORD, Raila, Uhuru. And the question then is, where are the rest of us? Because honestly, 2007, 2008 was not again about Raila versus Kibaki. When the country banned, it banned with many Kenyans. All of us were affected. So for me, what I would like Kenyans to be able to debate, even as we seek to resolve the issues around IEBC, and I'm not underplaying them, is to say the bigger picture here is about Kenya. Can we put the country first? And if we put the country first, the second thing is, how then do we go into 2017 election and beyond with an electoral management body that we can really trust, we can have confidence in? And that therefore calls for a number of proposals in terms of solutions.
And someone watching and hearing you introduced as the chairperson of the IEBC selection panel would say that you are probably square in the middle of the problem where we are right now. But did you foresee at least the makeup of the IEBC as is and the structure, at least the constitution? Did you foresee this? As you say, we have historical
No, I mean, Kenyans must recall that the process we put IEBC commissioners through was probably the first of its own kind in the history of this country, in terms of recruiting public officials. We are the first selection panel that actually interpreted this constitution. We said that you must meet the criteria in Article 10 on national principles of governance. We said you must meet Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity, and we even asked fundamental questions. Are you a honest person? If you took help and you never paid it back, do you deserve a public appointment? Are you a person of good conduct? We asked for a certificate of good conduct. Have you paid your KRA? I mean, we even went out of where and asked then Gishangi, General Gishangi, can we trust this individual? Over and above that, Mark, we held our interviews in public, in broad daylight camera. They were televised. And we asked questions. We also asked Kenyans, give us dossiers as to the suitability and competence of these individuals. So listen, at that point in time, we were looking at the suitability and competence of this individual. Now, as an employer, if an employee midstream changes course and becomes rogue, I mean, honestly, you cannot fault the process we subjected these people to then. And I think in all fairness, we did a pretty good job as the selection panel. We recommended 13 names. The two principals then, Raila Amolo Odinga and M.O.A. Kibaki, made the choices. If they had no confidence in the people we recommended, they could have rejected them. And like Annington said, even Raila, I think, confessed last week when he was in Garissa or Northeastern, that indeed I was responsible for the selection of Ahmed Isaac. So the question then is,
and people are throwing this in terms of the back and forth between Jubilee, and because it has become largely that, Jubilee and CORD. It's been thrown back and forth that Raila was actually part of the process to select the commission that he's now complaining about.
Masai, before you move on, I want to go back to this, because I think we are missing the point here. You know, we can dismiss this and say we can dismiss it and say it has no basis and this is not what Raila wants, or whatever it's being reported is not substantiated. But we have to go back to what a Kenyan is actually looking at it from which perspective. Number one, this brings out the issue of that we don't have a clear agenda. Because number one, we are talking about IEBC must go. That's what people are saying out there. That's what Jubilee say. That's what CORD is saying. But when you bring up something like this, a Kenyan is asking, so what is it? What do we want?
Okay.
What does CORD want? What is the issue?
Right.
Is the issue about IEBC commissioners going, or the issue is more about electoral reforms? Which, looking at this article, is talking about broader electoral reforms, about going back to parliamentary system, you know, leaving the presidential system. So let's not just dismiss this. We need to analyze and look at, as a Kenyan, when I wake up in the morning and it's Monday and I'm being called to the street, what am I fighting for? Is it that our former prime minister wants, you know, the way the position or the way the government is constituted is not what he wants, or he wants Isaac Hassan to go home because of ABCD, which has already been alluded to?
Yes.
So the agenda is not clear.
All right. The agenda is
for
not
Kenyans,
clear from how it's told from the originators.
I think, Mark, maybe you look at this from some historical perspective, where Kenyans, big boys, always want to sit in the boardroom and make sure there are enough positions for them. Right now, you know, CORD has 3 principles. So naturally, to have a presidential candidate among them will be tricky. But if they also have a president, deputy president, prime minister, it'll make their work easy. And then it shows you how the low level of our thinking, that we don't think about a country, don't think about posterity, we think about how we can divide the positions for our people. And that's why in every election, the ethnic card is then played. This is our turn. Right. You know, this is what we'll get. What are we getting out of this coalition or out of this? Maybe Kenyans should think in the long term to get out of coalition as a way of government. But coming back to IEC and credibility,
IEBC.
Our court has told us how the selection was done. But for me, I would really point these guys to the leadership and integrity section that talks about integrity of people, you know, the kind of people they are. If they are really as good as our court and this team did their best to select them, they should know that there have been flaws in their work. As I said, maybe the employee has gone to sleep, and they should ease off. It is not a must that they should be eased out forcefully at the price of Kenyans losing their life. To me, the chapter on leadership and integrity goes beyond just the word. It shows what kind of person are you, because public position is held in public trust. It's not position for an individual. As Ekuru says, these are institutions. So if I'm put in a public job, I should stay there for so long as the public want me. If even a substantial section of the public don't want me, I should age off. I should not wait even for tribunal. Okay. For me, I believe people wait for tribunals, don't actually meet the leadership and integrity.
Yes.
I think CORD owes it to Kenyans and also to itself to come out with a comprehensive brief on what exactly their demands are.
As she's saying, agenda.
Yes, they have, because then that we will avoid some of these sideshows we may be seeing. And they do not have to wait for Jubilee to form its
5-member team.
5-member team, if they'll ever form one or not. They should address Kenyans, come out and say, this is what we want. And I think they can pick some from whatever they had on the referendum question in specific regard to the IEBC and the election rules. It shouldn't be difficult to put that together.
Right.
But the problem is that they have allowed this thing to become not just an issue of demanding integrity in the electoral process, but a political showdown. And with a political showdown, it always helps them to be fuzzy over what they want.
And we get lost in all that. Yeah. Dr. Ekuru, you wanted to respond
I
to
think just maybe to put more emphasis on what colleagues have said, it would have been very useful going forward that we have a clear charge sheet against IEBC commissioners.
Yes.
For me, my position is very clear. Disbanding IEBC is not a solution to the management of our election. Because if you are to separate the institution of the IEBC and the commissioners, let's come up with a clear charge sheet. Because let me give you an example, Mark. Is it the clerk at IEBC that is the problem? So if we disband IEBC, is it the director of election in County X? Is it director of XYZ? Is it all commissioners collectively? What is really the charge sheet? So for me, if we are going to disband IEBC as is being called for, in the way we did ECK, the question then remains, have we really addressed the fundamental issues about managing our elections?
Yes, because we find ourselves in the same place.
We found ourselves in the same place because today we will do the same thing. Tomorrow we may not have the angels we want. And in fact, my fear is this. If we are going to go the route that they are proposing, which is that we select 5 guys, you select other guys, come on. IEBC is not about the business of CORD and Jubilee alone. It's also about Kenya.
Right.
As a matter of fact, as you've probably seen from the images following, of last week, these guys dine and wine together.
Yes, and I'd actually want us to look at those pictures.
These are buddies.
Right.
At the end of the day, yes. they will whip you and tell you, come to the street. Today, somebody has lost life. This is now the 5th life we have lost since this call for IEBC.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I want to bring myself to the level of that mama, that father, whose child has been killed because of this.
Okay.
Do these people, political bigwigs, honestly care?
That's a good question you bring up. And then, Bwana Macharia, you wrote an article on that, on seeing past the smile and the charm of President Uhuru Kenyatta. We'll see the pictures right after the break and really see what these pictures can do. When we're playing this, there's actual hope from Kenyans that there was a solution coming through, but then again it seemed like it was a gimmick. But we'll analyze this and move forward with a discussion after the short break. And we're back to Press Pass. Some discussion going on as we were on a break. And just some images there I would like to show you, if my director will put it up. And this was on Tuesday when President Uhuru Kenyatta had invited Raila Odinga, the leader of CORD, and Moses Wetangula. And they seem to be having a hearty laugh there with some of the leaders, even the Interior Cabinet Secretary, who definitely had some tough talk, especially just before the protests that were being announced. And you could think this is a different world or planet. These are the same who are laughing together, and in a few days later they are actually throwing threats at each other. Let's actually get some context with this from a story that was done earlier.
Perhaps a picture many Kenyans have been waiting to see with the current political temperature. A cordial handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the leader of opposition, Raila Odinga. The two seemingly enjoying their brief meeting. With the IEBC stalemate engulfing the country's political atmosphere, all eyes have been on the country's head of state. CORD having temporarily halted the weekly anti-IEBC demonstrations, religious leaders and the business community mounted pressure on President Kenyatta to take the lead and initiate talks with the opposition.
Our chairman has appealed to His Excellency the President. Give them a year. You have their mobile number. Give them a year, Your Excellency. You never know.
The brief talks were held after a luncheon hosted in honor of visiting South Korean President Park Geun-hye. President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga agreed to form a 10-member team, 5 from each side of the political divide, to kickstart dialogue on the fate of Kenya's electoral body. The team will work from outside Parliament to come up with a framework which will be used to solve the issues raised against the current IEBC commissioners. The development will likely put to an end weekly protest by the anti-IEBC agitators, characterized by battles between the protesters and the police. The opposition had already temporarily halted the Monday protest to allow dialogue to to take place. The opposition leader cut short his tour of Narok to fly back to Nairobi after a State House invitation that raised hopes within CORD that the head of state was finally ready for talks on electoral reforms being pushed by the opposition. The meeting took place on the backdrop of a tussle over CORD's planned rally on Madaraka Day. The court had, however, allowed CORD to proceed with the rally, directing the police to ensure security during and after the rally.
Well, we go by the law. We are a law-abiding government. We have to respect the law. So I have no problem with that. But celebration, no demonstration.
And so, CORD have been allowed to go on with the rally, but after President Kenyatta leads the country to mark 53 years of self-rule. Enoch Sikolia, NTV.
So let me start with Macharia. He wrote an article about this. I don't know if you saw it, but what do you make of that visit to State House? Many were like, media houses, please beam these images as much as you can.
Obviously, it seems to have had the desired effect at that point. As PR, it was a masterstroke. It cooled tensions, and things went peacefully for that few days anyway. But what concerned me was that there's a whole game of deception going on. Right. Because on the one hand, just the day before, they had said that the CORD is planning to overthrow the government. That is treason. You do not accuse somebody of treason one day and host him for tea the next day. Right. It doesn't make sense. And what I was saying is that there's a crime called misprision of treason. I'm not a lawyer, but I think you can advise us on that. Those guys who hosted Raila at State House should have been arrested for misprision of treason because they were bound by law to have him arrested because you do not joke around with treason.
Absolutely. That's serious.
Was this a breakthrough?
My friend Gaito is exaggerating. Polycarp Igathe, talking there in public media, he said the business community and the religious guys impressed on the president to engage dialogue, unless you have not gone to school really. What is not clear there? The truth is that in the last 2 weeks, the business community, led by KEPSA and the religious leader, including the Catholic Archbishop, the ACK Archbishop, Muslim leaders, and Friends of Kenya have been pressurizing the president to engage the opposition because when they met the business community, they said the Jubilee side doesn't respect them, they're not called for national days, they're not involved in what. So we approached the other side and said, if this is what we need to break the deadlock, at least to break the ice, as an icebreaker, let's do it. And very unwillingly so, the president agreed. And you saw there, he welcomed. He not only gave the invitation, the first invitation they were given, they even claimed they didn't get. And another fresh invitation was given, as the business community were present. And it was also agreed that the president would do more than that. Right. They would be invited to Nakuru, they would get frontline seats, and you saw, they would get transport, all what they requested. They were given all that. They still shied off. So it is very wrong to analyze. No, it is very wrong to overanalyze what some people know are factual and were attempts by a forum that has been trying to negate. No, but I've still understood what he says. That it was very wrong. No, just hold on, Gaito. That it was very wrong for the government side to accuse the opposition of treason, not give evidence, and then the next day meet them. That one I understood you. Right. We as a business community, we also raised that with the government. But why do you make? No, just hold on. Why do you make such allegation and you don't give information? You are now opening up Kenya for rumors and gossips, and when the media represents this, you'll again blame the media.
Complicating the media.
And even complicate the issues. I agree with you.
Yes, I'm not to that background of the business community. We all stakeholders, and we are all interested in that thing proceeding. What I'm saying is this: it means then there was absolutely no truth to those accusations of treason. It was a lie.
That I can agree with.
And here is a government. It's not some MP or Kajala or MCA somewhere speaking in a rally. It is a government spokesman with what must be a very well thought out statement.
Had the endorsement of someone.
It has to have the endorsement of State House. Yes. He says it is intelligence information. Now, if our intelligence services are lying,
Mark, you know this issue is
but
like
you do agree.
Somebody is lying somewhere.
To have
that was a blunder, Mark, and we have picked this issue with the government side.
But you know, when I saw those, when I see these images, and I'm sure we'll see many of them. I think in this particular instance, I think Raila was snookered.
He was, yes.
He was snookered.
Right. Right.
And I think Jubilee and maybe Uhuru just played their PR perfectly well. But I want us to think beyond just them snooker, because there's nothing new about their friendship. These are people who call each other, my brother this, my brother this. They will even remind Kenyans that we grew up together, we come a long way. I think what Kenyans need to know that they are on their own when it comes to some of these important issues.
Right.
That at the end of the day, the political class will easily meet and congregate on those issues that are important to them. So what we are seeing here is political contestation for power without necessarily having the common mwananchi in mind. What interesting to me is when people cite, for example, Article 1, which is where the power, the sovereign authority of the republic vests, or the people. And you can see when they themselves, when it's about those things that concern them, they will meet on their own. But you, the people, really nobody thinks about you. And that's for me, I think, before deviating from the fundamental point, that, again, I keep on saying this is really not about the two individuals. It's not about the two political coalitions. It's about the country, but also it's about the institution of the IEBC. Right. What really are the fundamental issues that we should be focusing on that should make sure that the next 2017 general election and beyond are good for this country? Because today, with all this going on, investor confidence is waning. People who operate businesses every Monday are worried. That mama who has to make a living every day is worried whether they can do that. Yes. So life is disrupted. Yeah. So for me, we need to go back to the fundamentals. What does this really mean for Kenya? Right. And what are really the solutions towards resolving this? And
Karo, you've heard Daktari say the political class don't really care about the common mwananchi. You're part of Kura Yangu, Sauti Yangu. Yes. To say and empower the citizenry that you actually have it in your hands, the power in your hands. When you see these images of the powerful congregating and meeting together, and then you see something else such as the 6-year-old baby who was hit by a stray bullet. And actually December here asked media propaganda, the No Media House could ask under what circumstances this kid was shot, and says he's disgusted. It was actually a stray bullet, and of course this is not a protester, and these questions were raised in Okusa's report. Your interpretation of this?
I agree with what Daktari has said, that sometimes it's all about how do we get a Kenyan to the same level with what the political class is talking about. And this is where people have been looking at where is the civil society. The civil society is supposed to be the voice of the Kenyans. That citizen, ule mama mboga mwenye the Daktari is talking about. The civil society is supposed to be now the bridge of the Wanjiku and the political class. And that's why Kura Yangu, Sauti Yangu came to be, that it was, as we thought of it being a citizen-led movement that spoke about the issues of Kenyans, and to ensure that when it comes to 2017, a Kenyan feel that their vote can count. Because the issue is that we are, as personally as Kura Yangu, Sauti Yangu, the issue is not about IEBC alone. There are very many issues, and we have highlighted 6 issues that when you say about IEBC must go, so when they go, so what? All right. What about the other issues? And some of these issues that we have highlighted as Kura Yangu, Sauti Yangu is the issue to do with judiciary. It's a very key stakeholder. And
we're there, actually. There's mediation going on right now.
It's a very key stakeholder when it comes to elections. And we cannot talk about IEBC and not talk about the judiciary.
Looking at the bigger picture. And this some have said, I'm sorry for cutting you short, I'll give you an opportunity to outline the 6 as we continue with the way forward. This has been brought up as a speculation that after IEBC, the next thing will be judiciary in terms of calling for accountability. Let me bring it back to this picture of this baby, and Mashari, I'll direct it to you. When we actually scrutinize, and I say we media, when the media scrutinizes the honesty of politicians, forget whether it's government or opposition, when they call for protests and you see this happening, some are saying call out the opposition for being responsible for leading these protests which lead to such injuries. And some are saying, call out the government for directing and allowing the police to use lethal force. Where do we have the balance here? Call out both?
I think we have to call out both. Legitimate protests are allowed, but obviously there are ways in which they must be conducted. They should be peaceful.
Yes.
At the same time, the police do not have license to use live bullets at every opportunity, to go around clobbering people half dead, to break up demonstrations when there is no need to break them up, when they are not violent. We have seen actually in the last few days, when there is no police interference, protests go on peacefully, as we saw at Uhuru Park on Madaraka Day. But when the police come in hammering everybody for the sake of it, then that is when the violence picks up.
Yes.
And I think they should try a different tack. Let's give people a chance to demonstrate peacefully. Of course, that does not mean that the police must not interfere where there are threats to law and order.
Because businesses have been
every response must be measured. It shouldn't be just indiscriminate hammering.
Right.
But of course, the organizers of demonstrations, it is also their responsibility to make sure that their supporters are peaceful. I said before, CORD should marshal their own protests. They should have people who are clearly identified with some kind of uniform or jacket or bib, who are clearly labeled as marshals, who will keep people in line, and who will help isolate troublemakers. In fact, they should work with the police to isolate troublemakers, because some guys, CORD may have very good intentions, but some of their supporters think that you must throw stones if you're demonstrating, that you must throw stones.
But they know this.
The other thing is that there are people who will take advantage of any situation to go rob, loot, rape, plunder.
But surely CORD knows this. Honorable Raila Odinga knows this.
I assume they know it, but I think sometimes I get the feeling that for them, the more violent confrontation, the better for them.
Right.
I think for me, the fundamental point is that, you know, during demonstration or picketing, law enforcement does not cease. There has to be law enforcement all the way. So what I would still be interested to know, the policeman who clobbered, remember, I think 2 weeks ago, that man was clobbered, literally beaten to pulp until he went unconscious. So I don't understand. You've already cornered this fellow. Why not arrest him and handcuff him? I can understand the logistics of the police not being able to arrest 1,000 demonstrators. But clearly, even arrest a few that you think have transgressed or are offended the law.
Right.
Then charge them. For me, that's the civility we are looking for in the police. But it looks to me that the police have got one instruction. Go out there, you meet those guys, whether they are demonstrating within the law or not, like Gaido says. Article 37 really protects demonstration. As long as it's peaceably held, then you really have no business exerting any force. As a matter of fact, you should protect the demonstration. Let them, but of course, whereas people become violent, you don't need to resort to force. Because like let me tell you, if I was that fellow who was being beaten like that, and I've got these 3 policemen, and I know they're beating me up, trust me, I will defend myself. I'll probably grab one of those clubs and I will hit back. Because, I mean, clearly, there is no intention to arrest me.
Yes, and someone would say it's in the same breath and same thought, because some reporters who were on the ground on that particular day said that gentleman was actually taunting them, having their hands around their crouch area. But it doesn't justify it. As you understand the theater of such protests, it's easy for us to sit here on a panel and say this is how it should go, but the theater of protests take a life of their own. And this is what I want to kind of ask and separate. When there's this protest against the IEBC, some have probably been comfortable with the fact that there will be collateral damage and collateral in terms of lives. So where do we separate this in terms of media in calling them out? Because there will be lives lost and property destruction. So they have agreed that this will be the cost to get their way. But we need to separate, because now some will say the government is killing our people in the name of protecting the IEBC.
My point is this.
So where do we
what is the What's the role, what's the purpose of demonstration? It is to seek attention.
Yes.
That is even the work of social activists. Once
right.
you have sought attention, you have been called, what you engagement, then you now give that attention that you are seeking, you give it a chance so that it is executed. The fact that the president invited the opposition, and even that you cannot lose sight of. It means that their problem has been just already, it means whatever they wanted to convey has received that attention. So and now they should now engage first. Before they go back to the street, they should engage to give the same dialogue they wanted a chance. Initially, they were actually requesting for a tea only, just to shake hands and break the ice. Right. They got more than that. And Dr. was even saying that somebody was snookered. Nobody was snookered there. It was an effort that has been going on because we did not want to see any. Now coming. Do
you think that's why they didn't go to Nakuru?
Yeah, they thought, people like him told him, you have been snookered, you have done too much, don't proceed. And this is usually the danger. No, you just hold on so that I finish my point about the demonstration. Having known, and right now all Kenyans are seized to the fact that IEBC needs some reform, and that process has been accepted. There are more than 165 MPs who have even studied bipartisan sort of approach, so that they listen to the public and then have a parliamentary process to anchor that in the constitution. Okay. Don't you think that we should sincerely, if our leaders were sincere on IEBC, don't you think that they should now call off the demonstration, even for 2 weeks, just so
someone will ask, are they sincere? You've made your point. Someone will ask, are they really sincere?
Coming to the police.
Are they really sincere? We need to take a break. That's why I want to throw it to them.
Yeah, quickly, just come to the police. The police are supposed to help even in demonstration. But where even the life of the police and life of property is in danger, the word police means legal force. I want Kenyans to know that.
Yes.
That has to be used.
There is dishonesty on either side of the divide on this issue of IEBC. And that's really the bottom line. And
that's the bottom line?
But before I go, Annington raises a very important point. What is the purpose of demonstration? Yeah. The purpose of demonstration is defined in Article 37 of the Constitution. It says every person has the right peaceably and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. Right. Now, in the context of IEBC, is there a petition being presented to that public authority? You see, that's the other thing we are missing. So you cannot just, there has to be a purpose to demonstrating, to picketing.
Not just endlessly.
It cannot just be
an put the constitution.
I just want to introduce something that span in the works, really. This aired on Friday. TNA's Gatondo South MP Moses Kuria vowed to bring his own crowd of protesters to face off with the opposition demonstrators at Electoral Commission offices today. This was on the basis that both CORD and the police ignored court orders stopping opposition protests, but that did not hold, given the High Court ruling earlier today. But let's hear what he said as captured by KTN.
Kodota ya kukaangwa na kuchomwa. Si ile niko nao ndio kama ile walipata. Bona yao sisi tunaheshimu, na ile yangu mimi nilipata nikaenda kotini na mawakili, hiyo haiheshimiwi. Maana hata mimi sikuenda kutupa mawe, sikuenda kuandamana, nilienda kotini nikaheshimu koti, tukiwa na heshima wengine tukapewa court order. Hawa watu wakasema hata koti haijui, hawakuji hata huko. You people of the media, you tell Raila and his people, if he does not respect the court order I got from court, see you in the streets on Monday. Aambiwe namna hiyo.
Well, we didn't see Moses Kuria or his demonstrators today on the streets because the High Court upheld the right for the CORD opposition, CORD coalition, to lead the demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations today. And we were getting into a point here about the purpose, especially for picketing. And Ekuru, if you just run over the points that you brought up just before we took a break.
So what I think is important for Kenyans to be able to understand is the contents of Article 37 of the Constitution. Right. And I think this is where also people should not blame CORD for calling for demonstration, because they are constitutional. And just for the avoidance of doubt, Mark, this is what the Constitution says in Article 37, that every person has the right, peaceably and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. The assumption there is that you've got a grievance with the public authority, and therefore you've got some dissatisfaction, you want some relief from that public authority. And I think what we need to begin to question here, two things. Let's not condemn CORD for going on the street to demonstrate, to picket, whatever the case may be. But we should also know what then is the purpose of that demonstration. I think we need to get to the bottom of that. And here the purpose, as we were telling earlier, is if it is about blanketly condemning IEBC, then there are serious reservations from many of us.
Yes.
We need to be able to separate those two issues. So I think it's important, and maybe Carol can explain more in this, on this, but it's important to get to the real purpose.
In response to that, Gadara says demonstrations are not just about presenting petitions, they are a legitimate form of political participation. And someone else here brings the issue of, I think the Constitution is 100 years maturer than Kenyans. We are not living it for sure. And Francis Kaleli says, Julius, what we do now affects directly next year's polls. Let's be keen. Something else that we should look into. But something that was drawn to you, Carol, Joannes says, Maina, Joan says, in Kenya, we lack strong civil society to advocate for the Mwananchi. A failure on your part?
I don't think so.
They don't feel your presence because you say you're part of a campaign that brings together at least 10 community civil society organizations.
Yes, and this one actually goes back to the issue of the role of the media.
All right.
Because as this Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu initiative came to be in February this year,
all right,
2016, and we have been advocating for many issues other than IEBC. And I can tell you that the media has only focused on two people. This is Jubilee and CORD, and to some extent the churches.
All right.
The civil society, like the main civil society, has been blocked out. And I can tell you that civil society are doing a lot of work.
All right.
But how do people get information in Kenya? People get information through the media. So if the media is only focusing on these two principles and forgetting about what civil society is doing, people are not able to know what civil society is doing. And for example, Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu has done a lot, as I said before now, but I'm not shocked that Joannis or someone else will not be able to talk about civil society or what is their role in this whole process.
If they've done a lot, then probably the Mwananchi should be able to feel the presence.
It's very easy to blame the media for your own failings. I think there was a time we had a very powerful civil society.
Yes.
If you go back to 1997, the whole agitation for a new constitution and all that business, it was pushed by civil society and the churches. It was not the opposition of the day pushing it. They only jumped on board when the march became unstoppable. Where is civil society today? Either they have been swallowed up by the government or by politics in general, or they're doing their own very small, low-key things, but they're not doing anything which really impacts and
is felt
enough for us to notice what they're doing so that we can write about it.
So
I don't think we have. I don't think the media in Kenya can sit and conspire and say, let us block out civil society.
She begs to differ.
That doesn't make any sense.
Let her respond, then Dr.
Yes, because to say that civil society organizations are not doing anything, it's accusing us wrongly. Because I can say that we are doing a lot and we are very clear on the issues that needs to be addressed. We are clear that IEBC is not the only issue. We are clear that there are other issues that needs to be addressed, and the role of the media should not be, just be thrown aside and say the media does not have a role to play. The media is also part of civil society organization, and they should be aware that there is work that civil society are doing and towards 2017 election.
The media,
yes, for example,
we are reporting those who are speaking.
Yes,
we are reporting what the churches are doing, what the business community is doing.
No, for example, we did a launch of Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu. We highlighted the issues, but what was covered? Hassan, the chairperson, because we invited Hassan. Yes, he was there. So what was covered was Hassan says that ABCD, no issues that we had said.
Actually, that's what he said. He ate no chicken.
Nothing was highlighted on the issues that we had actually said that we want. The 6 issues, we put them out there, but they were not addressed.
Dr. Your court.
Carol,
going back to him.
Carol.
Don't worry.
Carol,
you have your rights. You have your rights.
No, Carol. No. Let's take the debate to the next level. I've also been a member of the civil society. And I think for me, what Mashara Gaido is sort of, challenging us to, I think we have complained for the longest time about misgovernance in this country, how things are going wrong. I think time has come for us to be those alternative leaders. We know we are perfecting this art of lamentation and complaining about government year in, year out. I think right now, what the civil society needs to do is say, let's form ourselves into an alternative form of government that we can present ourselves before Kenyans and say, we can do these things better. And precisely for this reason, Badekar, and I'm not here necessarily to drum up support for myself, it's precisely for this reason that I got so tired of complaining, saying things are bad. So I'm offering myself as that alternative leader, you know, so that I am going to fix these things the way I know best from my experience as civil society, from a Kenyan, middle class Kenyan educated. I think this thing of we have surrendered the country to a few individuals, to a few names. I think it's about time that civil society spoke the language of politics. Right. We need to stop this civil society.
I wanted to respond to something he said, and he talked for quite long, so maybe it's fair I speak.
Real quick, and then I'd have him respond as a Media Owners Association chair, especially to what the civil society is saying.
Yes. Huntington was saying that the government did a very good gesture in calling these people. Now they should shut up and wait for the talks. But he's ignoring the fact that the president and the deputy president have already dismissed any prospect of talks outside of what they call is the only legitimate way.
But does this mean there's no talks going on?
No.
There are talks going on.
No. It is, I'm talking about what we know. If you are doing something else behind the scenes, I don't know. Another thing, don't forget, we have supported all efforts at mediation. Whatever is being done by KEPSA and the churches, and KEPSA includes the media owners and also the media, we are aware and we are part of it. But we are also not so blind that some of these people may have very short-term idea. The business community, for them, it is, let's have peace.
For business.
Full stop, because of you're disrupting business. So if that is KEPSA's position and the media owner's position, it is not necessarily the position of those who actually run the media, of the media practitioners, because there are always places where we differ with the owners. I think we are very much for a free, independent, robust press. Sometimes you will find the media owners, when it comes to free, independent, robust press, they step aside and want to don't annoy those in authority. You know, that seems sometimes to be their reflex position. And we are saying no, it cannot be. We can't. Because we have to think long term.
Yes, I want to give a guy another question to respond to. I think the question seems to be,
3 questions.
How is the media helping the debate go forward? Is the attendance of Ahmed Isaac in a launch of Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu just really a news item, or you need to go to the fundamentals of that launch? Maybe Gaia can shed more light.
Yes, and as you respond to that, someone saying Kenya media has been more complicit in silencing and delegitimizing the civil society. As Media Owners Association, this should concern you, hearing these accusations.
I think I'll start with the last one, about the debate. You can see what you're doing here, even this part of it. So the fact that people fail in what they should do to get the attention of media and then blame the media, I cannot comment on that. And I think that's the same point Gaeto said, sort of indirectly. He said, when we do things or we articulate or prosecute issues, we should do them with the passion and continuously, and they should have impact. Media may initially ignore that, but they pick the traction because no media want to be left behind in the national agenda. And I think he'll agree with me. His candidature, he has been consistent, and it has picked traction. Is now even coming out in opinion polls. There are other people who are running for president, but they have not come in opinion poll because they have not been consistent. Coming to the other issue that Masharia, he actually answered the question by saying historically, the second revolution was actually led by civil society and initially helped by even the informal media, the magazines, to be precise. Even the formal media just came later, and then the politicians came and hijacked that. This is how the media operate, meaning you must come out, because media attention is limited, media space is limited. So you must compete with it with value, with consistency, with passion to get attention. So probably what I would advise my friend here, pick it. You'll be noticed. People will know you exist, but you do it honorably. Once you're noticed, then you stop it. You don't do it endlessly like we do our politics. The media has not been silent on the IEBC issue. this particular engagement is an example. The headlines, practically, some people even complain that the government side are complaining that the media is putting so much media space on IEBC. They have even forgotten socio-economic development, the SGR, the Standard Railway, or not. So somebody cannot say that the media is not doing anything on IEBC when you will agree that it actually dominates. So when we put ourselves in position of not understanding or not following facts or not even seeing what is clear, I can't help in those situations of acuity.
Yes.
The other issue Macharia has raised, and I want to make that very clear, the media owners have always stood with our practitioners. Even when we go to court, and you know several cases that we were there, the media owners were there, and the Editors Guild were there, he has been chairman, and he knows that, they correspond. We really helping. We only meet, and by the way, even the account is a media owner. Even His Excellency the President is a media owner. But at the place where we meet as media owners, these big giants don't come. It's the Gaitos of this world, the Tom Machines of this, who still come, and they're the practitioners. Yeah, who still come and sit in those meetings. So it is very wrong to come out that the media never really supports press freedom. I am known, and I can be quoted, that there's no time I've spoken to the media without emphasizing freedom of media, including on World Media Press Day, and you can check your records.
All right.
Yeah, we stand for...
Before we go on, really, my question is, what is the role of the media in ensuring that 2017 is credible and transparent? Really, does it just reporting on IEBC really the only issue that, the only concern or whatever that IEBC can do, what the media can do? I think the media has a bigger role here that we are trying to avoid.
And we're getting caught up?
Yes, all these things of just highlighting what IEBC and saying there is whatever happening. I don't think that is the role the media should play.
When I started, I actually told you that there are 11 dimensions currently from the Nigerian election, which is the latest, slightly well organized, scoring above 70. There are 11 dimensions of a free, fair, and credible elections. And one of them is having a credible body that organizes, and that was my introduction actually today, if you start. And the media participates by allowing or opening space for people. We are supposed actually to be mediating. Mediating means we create the space, we create the time, like this forum, for people to participate in that debate and shape it the way they like. We only step in to hijack and prime to hijack. If we're not setting it is necessary. No, if it is necessary to set the agenda, that's what I'm coming for. If we see that everybody is not really thinking about the nation, then we are allowed. So that's why we are referred to as the fourth estate.
So what I think Annington is bringing a very important point, that I think in the context of the pressing issue of IEBC, I think what media needs to do is go beyond just reporting of the drama, that there is a demonstration, somebody has been killed, and maybe ask the question, why are these issues happening? And for me, what I would have loved to see the media in Kenya now do is to focus on the real issues around IEBC. It's not about the political contestation. And this will be, Mark, if you allow me, is just to ensure that, do we have adequate processes and systems in place to manage 2017 general election? Which media house has actually analyzed that? And for me, I mean, this is something that I'm passionate about. Because for me, it's not about Raila, it's not about Uhuru, it's not about CORD, it's not about Jubilee.
It's not about Third Way?
Well, it's not even about that way. It's true, I agree. It's not even about that way. But what I'm saying is, let's go to the fundamentals. Which media house today is leading the discourse around how do we make IEBC a credible electoral management body? And we have proposed at Third Way at least 5 proposals we put on the table. If you allow me, number 1, fraud detection. Are we able today, going forward, are we able to detect fraud in the management of our election? Nobody is analyzing that. Number 2, are IEBC's processes amenable to audit? Can a third party actually go into IEBC today and say, let's audit the process in IEBC that will give us the confidence in holding the election? Number 3, independence in the transmission of results. We are not even analyzing that from last 2013 general election, IEBC relied on Safaricom. This is what has led court to say we are going to transmit our own results independently. So that's a very important fundamental issue. Number 4 is integration of the voter registration system and the voting system itself. That's a very fundamental issue that will save us bloodshed in this country. And number 5, the last one, resources. What does all these 4 issues mean? If we don't have resources, what government has done in the recent past is to press austerity measures on IEBC budget allocation. In fact, and I stand to be corrected, there is no single time IEBC has been given all the requisite resources it needs to be able to put all these systems in place. What I would have loved to see a media house do is to go in depth into ensuring all these issues are addressed. In fact, the dialogue today should not be about Monday demonstration, should not be about Moses Kuria bringing his boys. The system today should be, how do we help IEBC put processes and systems in place that can avert the kind of situation we saw in 2007, 2008. I really would love to see that robust debate.
And I know you have 6 points.
I fully concur that the media can do more. Beyond reporting the demonstrations and the drama and the exchanges, in terms of analyzing all these positions, analyzing what is being proposed and by who, analyzing what exists, what is in place at the moment, and even offering solutions and taking positions. Too often we tend to shy away from taking positions. But when you're dealing with a matter of broad principle rather than partisan politics, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking positions. But if you go through our newspapers over the last month, even more, since this drama started, I think all papers, Nation, Standard, Star, The People, have done acres and acres of editorials taking positions on the IEBC issue. And all of them more or less concur. And they're not necessarily siding with CORD or Jubilee.
How do you ensure that?
There is a problem, we must solve it, we must find a way of solving it. Not necessarily the CORD way or the Jubilee way, but we must meet around somewhere and debate and discuss and come up with a mechanism acceptable to all. That has been independently what all the different media houses have been saying.
Right.
And that is more or less what the church is saying. That is what the private sector alliance is saying.
Society.
All the and civil society is saying.
When you are at it, what I would have loved to see, for example, from the media, is to pull the audit report of 2014 that actually pointed out the problem, the challenges at IEBC, and juxtapose that, Mark, to the politics of contestation that is going on, and say, okay, you know what? After 2013 general election, we figured out these are the problems. In fact, so much so that IEBC itself actually admitted, yes, there were challenges. So the question we should be asking, and I think for me this is where I really miss the role of a proactive media that is very incisive, to say, no, before we kill each other, before we lose more life, there was this report. How much has IEBC implemented these findings? And what is it that they are doing? What is the deficit today? For me, I think I missed that because that will elevate the debate on IEBC beyond individuals, beyond personalities, which we are seeing today. You see, people have asked me, even today as a new entrant into 2017 general election, I would like to participate in an election where I am happy, I am confident, I've got faith and trust in it. So for me, I wish this question could be helped to really ask
shift the conversation, and then you'll give us the 6 recommendations.
What Ekuru is saying, and which I believe in and have been advocated, the media has to cover things in depth, and then follow up issues. I think that's the point he's saying. And on there, I stand, because I think the media in Kenya has not done that. It's good to be honest. If we have to improve, we must also accept where we are at fault. Everybody in those editorials agreeing there's something wrong with IEBC. But nobody has really pinpointed and said these are actual, it's like vilifying and bullying IEBC. And they have been condemned and heard, sincerely. They've been condemned as bullying. And then the IEBC themselves have been asking, if you have a bully in class, do you leave school? You face it, and that's why they have been digging in, because they're saying, tell us what we have done.
We must also admit that IEBC has done a very poor job at defending itself.
That I'm really agreeing. But then why haven't we not given them the facts, the figures? Why are we condemning them without the issues and in depth and in a way that follow each other?
I think they have had every opportunity to defend themselves, to state their case, and to respond.
Let's hear Carol.
If they cannot do it competently, I think that is their problem.
Let's hear Carol on some of the conversations you'd want to be held in media.
I think as we work towards 2017, we should be, as stakeholders and partners in this process, we should understand that IEBC is not the only issue. I keep saying that because there are many issues. And before even I go to the issues that I'm talking about, the issue of the media going in depth. really, we don't have to picket a civil society organization for us to be, the issues of us to be picked by the media. I'm saying this because Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu has even gone ahead and told you what is wrong with IEBC. We have highlighted those issues. We even did a press release on Standard. No one has picked up on those issues, and we have said IEBC, we are saying IEBC has issues because of ABCD. We didn't say commissioners are the only issues. We highlighted many issues, including issues of integrity, issues of transition, because considering that the commissioners are not in office after November 2017, just 3 months after the election, what does it mean for other subsequent electoral processes like petitions? So as we move towards 2017, we should also be as stakeholders to understand that IEBC is not the only issue. The issues to do with the judiciary, the issues to do with discrimination, the two-thirds principle. No one is talking about that issue. It's a provisional, it's a constitutional provision, and no one is talking about that issue.
Carol, did you jump on the bandwagon of what court is doing now, or has this conversation been going on?
This conversation as I said, we started this conversation in February. We even met the stakeholders you are seeing here, saying that we need mediation, we need negotiation, we need this. We met several stakeholders. We even met the media and said, Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu, these are some of the issues. This is what we are saying. Before even court started going to the streets, we had said IEBC was an issue. We had said judiciary is an issue. We had said the two-thirds, even before it was Duale bill was rejected, we had said the two-thirds principle is going to be an issue. But as they say, we have to picket. I don't think we have to picket. We have highlighted issues.
Make yourself known and heard.
Not necessarily picket.
When I said picket, I was not saying it literally.
I know it was literally, but
if you look yourself in a boardroom,
we have not looked ourselves in the boardroom. We have not. You see, that is the mentality that is out there, that which I make.
That is not up to you guys.
That we are doing what needs to be done, and we have not locked ourselves in the boardroom discussing issues.
Noticed by media.
No.
Oh wow, that's a heavy statement.
So the issues of, as I said, issues of discrimination,
let's outline
the issues of security.
Yes.
No one is talking about issues of security with regards to elections, and we see Kenya, as we know, issues of how we have managed security issues to to have votes.
Okay, let me give you a chance to think of the 6 points that you're stealing a note. Okay.
No, she's talking about two-thirds discrimination.
Yes.
So I wanted to help you how to get that. But I want to follow my fellow Dr. there. There's something that he mentioned that some of us don't also read even that constitution very clearly. I was surprised when I read the issue on gender. For instance, for public state officers and whatnot, what it says is that you look at that in totality, in the whole. You don't look at it that in IEBC, for instance, if there are 3 men, I'm just trying to say, but what has been the Kenya way? And meaning I'm coming back to your side. So this issue that we are grinding of two-thirds, I can tell you, if you go and read the Constitution thoroughly, and you look at the guidance from the Supreme Court that was given, it was not supposed to have been abrupt, the way people want to grind it. And it's not really as a priority as having a credible electoral body or rectifying the judiciary. So I'm saying even as a country, we should not be introducing non-serious things when the nation is bleeding. This is the time for us to isolate on real issues and act as men and women and sort them out in depth and, with dignity and information.
I think now she has...
I wish I had understood Gaia because...
well, Daktari was a bit philosophical there, you say. And there's something to draw it back to the issues and questions people are asking. Eric Nyaga says, does the IEBC have an audit system? You brought it up, but I think this is in your 6
let's see
objectives.
Actually, the 6 points.
Oh, the 6 points. Actually, you have mentioned some of these. Another issue was issues of voter registration. And this one, we link it to the issues of ID issuance in Kenya. It is a major challenge, and no one is talking about it. No one is talking about voter registration and the issues we saw in 2013. The issue of technology, you have spoken about it. Transmission of results. Is it is this what Kenyans want, that we use the technology way, or we go back to the manual the way that we used to? There's no discussion is being done around technology. Everyone is just fixated with the issue of IEBC commissioners must go, but no one is talking about the real issues that needs to be dealt with before 2017, or before we can say 2017 was credible, free, fair, and transparent. So, you know, as Kurangu Sauti Yangu, we feel like we need to have a discussion, and by providing solution here, we are talking about if dialogue is the way to go, let's have that dialogue. But let us have dialogue on these key issues, not IEBC issues alone. Because what happened when we solve IEBC issue, then the judiciary comes in. Do we go back to the street and start saying judiciary must go? Or do we now start going to the State House and having tea and saying that we are discussing about judiciary? So before we go even to the table about negotiation as a Jubilee or code, we need to be very clear as stakeholders what are some of these issues that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We're on the last lap now, so I want to give each and every one of us the last word. Ekuru, you, and I believe you were on KTN, you were on Citizen, having quite a good run on media.
That's what happened when the nation calls.
And someone would say, you've mentioned being part of mediation or being willing to mediate.
Yes.
But someone would question your objectivity because you're an interested party now as a presidential aspirant. Is there serious will for dialogue? And is it really your place, or who would you propose to, you know, take this forward?
First of all, I don't see any conflict of interest in what I'm doing. I'm actually stepping up my leadership role in this country to say that I'm not going to fence it and watch this kind of situation, people reducing it to just personalities. I want to elevate this to the next level. And as you rightfully said, I have done in-depth interviews about the real issues affecting IEBC. I have put on the table the need to separate between individual commissioners' transgressions to the law, which can be dealt with other laws, and the institution of the IEBC. So I think the question is this, Mark, 154 members of parliament have spoken about the need for dialogue. The church has spoken about the need for dialogue. CORD has spoken about the need for dialogue. I am aware even within Jubilee there are people who are talking about dialogue, but nobody is saying, okay, how do we actualize that dialogue? So what I have done as a Ekuru Court and as Third Way Alliance to say, I am willing to bring you guys on the table. Because after all, I don't see any conflict of interest. This is the responsibility of each and every Kenyan. If you recall, Article 3 of the Kenyan Constitution gives each one of us an obligation to uphold and protect the Constitution. This issue of IEBC is a constitutional issue. So I honestly do not see any conflict of interest. I mean, what kind of leader will I be? I mean, I'm not going to sit on the fence and wait until when I'm president of this country to be able to address issues. If I, as a Kenyan citizen, as a patriotic Kenyan citizen, I think I have got every right to offer solutions. After all, people have accused me of having, you know, brought about IEBC because I chaired the selection panel. So I might as well advise them that, listen, the process we took into bringing these people on board was above board. You know, so
And I want to bring this up. Sorry to bring it up this late, because what Jubilee is throwing out there, at least collectively, is that they're going to stick to the constitutional route. You were the director of the committee of experts, and you also helped form as a selection panel the IEBC. And it seems, or at least it's being told to the Kenyans, the only constitutional route is through parliament. And what CORD is proposing, that is protest and dialogue, talking, is not constitutional. Help us clarify this.
That is the politics of expediency and convenience that everybody is playing. Because, I mean, I didn't want to bring that factor, but let's contrast the issues affecting IEBC now with the issues we knew about EACC last year. President Uhuru himself went to Parliament in the State of the Nation address, delivered a speech, and asked Parliament, this is a report on corruption, and even said, if anybody who is affected or adversely mentioned must step aside. So the principle has already been set. So for me, I think let's not mislead Kenyans. Let's not mislead Kenyans on the politics of expediency and convenience in this. So I think for me, and like I said, when I offered to actually broker this deal, without necessarily disclosing to you how far I have gone in the last 2 days, I've actually tried to meet all interested parties. And yes, and I've made some inroads. Frankly speaking, there is willingness to actually have dialogue to resolve this. Now, the people who are saying you cannot have dialogue outside...
And it's not constitutional.
No, they are lying. I mean, because they have not really read the Constitution. Because if you read Article 159 of the Kenyan Constitution, it talks very clearly about mediation, conciliation, and all those things. Okay. So really, these people are just being political, they are playing hardball, and for me, this is what brings me to my last remarks. What does this mean for the ordinary Kenyan? So let me tell you this. In my view,
Make it short.
Yes, whether we fight about IEBC or not, there are pressing needs for the ordinary Kenyan in this country. We are talking about unga. We're talking about access to a doctor. We're talking about education, we're talking about security. We're talking about those issues that concern the ordinary Kenyan every day. Whereas people are fighting at this level, the ordinary Kenyan is actually suffering. We're talking about guys right now in the slum areas, in the villages, who are struggling in their day-to-day struggles. I think this is the state we have subjected our country into. So let people not play expediency with the Constitution. The Constitution is very clear. And by the way, the last thing, just to add to your list, one thing that we should also be asking IEBC going forward, what process are they putting in place to punish criminal offenders and electoral laws? Because that issue is not being discussed. And we don't seem to be learning from electoral malpractices.
Yes.
For example, in the last Kilifi by-election, we saw actually a member of parliament distributing. That's an electoral offense.
How do we deal with it?
Exactly, and this ought to be punished.
Okay.
Because, I mean, and this is for me why I say we need to come back to the institution of the IEBC and separate it from the problems of the individual commissioners.
All right, sounding a lot like a presidential pitch at a presidential panel.
Give me the chance to fix this country, Mark.
So let's move on.
I've gone on record in my column saying that it is time Kenyans thought beyond these dynasties who are always fighting each other, thought beyond Raila and Uhuru, and really looked for leaders who have the interests of Kenya at heart. A friend has offered himself. I will consider. I hope you support but I can tell you also that there are also quite a number of others who are also offering themselves as the third way. Yes. So we will have to look at all of them. Secondly, it's also good for him that he has offered to mediate. I don't know that he will be disqualified because he's an interested party. But if he is, I am willing. but knowing that I will be disqualified because there are some who will not want me there. I think my challenge would be to civil society,
yes,
to the churches, to the business community, to the trade unions, and other stakeholders to form a broad-based coalition to summon or initiate that dialogue. It is wrong for Raila to tell Uhuru to call a meeting. It is wrong for churches and the business community to tell the president to call a meeting. He is an interested party. This dialogue needs to be spearheaded by a third, another force altogether. Not the third one. Sorry, correct me there.
Thank you, big compromise.
From outside the political circles. Yes. I think that's the way to go. What we do need really is something which will form a broad-based grouping, which will then take all these issues beyond IEBC. We're talking about, I think, about the whole electoral process and anything else that we need to do to ensure a credible general election in 2015.
And these are thoughts I'm sure we'll have on your column tomorrow?
Tomorrow I am writing about why some people should be arrested for misprision of treason.
Oh, wow. Okay. I would like to read that. All right, now you'll get your copy.
Yes,
Madam Carol.
I do agree with what my colleagues have said. And if we are going the mediation way or the dialogue way, my request is that we need to be very, very careful on to be not to, to be non-inclusive. That's what I meant to say, is that we need to make sure that everyone is included in that dialogue. What I mean is that don't have only called Jubilee and one person, maybe from KEPSA to say, or from the church, and say that you have come up with an inclusive dialogue solution or framework. We need to be very inclusive. We need to have all stakeholders represented in that dialogue. Yes. And we should not forget about public participation, because I think we are forgetting about public participation. That this is a very critical issue, and public participation should be very key in this issue. And just saying what is the big question today and what is your input does not summon to public participation. I think there's a better way that we
Opinion
can...
counts questions.
Yes, we can get what the Kenyans, the voters themselves feel about this whole process. And we should make sure that the convener should be very impartial.
Okay.
We need to make sure that that convener, the way my colleagues are saying, that is someone who is not part of the political class or wants to run for election like Dr. Ekuru.
I can assure you I care about this.
Yes. And we also need to be very clear on the principle of transparency, that Kenyans need to be aware what is happening. Because when you do closed door, a Kenyan down there does not understand what you are talking about. It should be very clear. People should know what is in the on the table.
And as we've seen, either side will come with their version of the story.
Everyone wants, you know, exactly. So we need to know what is on the table, what is being discussed. Is it Hassan going, and who is going to be replaced? Who is going to replace Hassan, or is it who and who? And speaking about the same dialogue discussion, Kura Yangu Sauti Yangu tomorrow will be launching what we call the National Dialogue Mediation Framework, where we have just highlighted the key principles of dialogue, what needs to be done so that the process seems inclusive, it needs to be transparent, and we welcome stakeholders and partners to also be part of the group, and also, you know, make sure the dialogue is effective as we will want to be.
It's a conversation that continues.
Yes, moving forward.
Finally, Dr. Hannington, would you allow him to say something really quick?
What do you think, Hannington, even go for it? Because for me, I'm worried about subjecting this mediation to another lengthy process in the light of 2017 and the anxiety. The question really is, and I think I want people to, that's why I keep on asking, people must press the country, put the country first. Is there possible for us to swallow our pride, lessen our hard stance, and make a quick decision turnaround? Because we don't have time. Listen, it took me about 3 months to recruit these current commissioners. So really, I'm also worried about how much time we are likely to subject this process. And this is why I'm calling for statesmanship at this point in time.
Again, sounding like a presidential debate.
With that introduction of my conclusion, with that very introduction of my conclusion, we want to give a way forward that actually goes to, you know, turn a quick, good decision, turnaround time towards. I'm requesting us to have a hybrid of the thinking of Jubilee and the thinking of CORD, but all inclusive. And that's what I want to propose. So I want Kenya to listen to me. What we can do, because we already have MPs who are talking in a bipartisan manner, we can have somebody introduce this debate. One evening, Parliament has been recalled when there are national issues to be done. They are recalled, and somebody introduced that debate as a matter of national importance, because it can be ground on one evening. That debate, it is discussed. Parliament comes with, with what we can call an ad hoc or select committee to handle the issue. And you know, any parliamentary, and he's a lawyer, if I'm wrong, he'll tell you, any parliamentary committee that has got a right constitutionally to listen to all Kenyans, and it could be even be co-chaired by, you know, because they agree, the members could come from the protagonist, including even the other small parties, but then they should be clearly mandated that they must go out briefly. We have a short framework where they would listen to key and very quickly, and given time span to listen to the other views outside Parliament. And then when that has been sieved, then they now give this an anchorage on the Constitution, which can only be done by Parliament. It's only Parliament that can change the law. But it can include the views from but even the Public Accounts Committee, they have public hearings, so they could have a quick public hearing structured, so that would sort out CORD, wanting public to be included, it would sort out my friend here, so that everybody can be involved, and yet it will still have that parliamentary process that then legitimizes and anchors this on the Constitution. And that should be the way forward, and that can be achieved. That head start can be achieved even tomorrow.
Dr. Hannington,
so that's my play.
Dr. Ekuru, you make it sound so easy in the sense.
If people are honest,
but don't you have access to these leaders? And if indeed they're honest in seeking a way forward, if it is as easy as you're making it sound, the viewer is asking.
It is very easy, and I'm talking from my probably from a privilege.
It would be very easy in a normal situation.
But Kenyan politics is not
But
normal.
what makes it no, we have done it before in many issues, even IPPD.
Yeah.
We have done it before.
I think
in order to beat the time.
If we remove the politics,
yes, it is very easy.
If we remove the tribe,
yeah.
If we remove the personalization,
yes.
This thing can be resolved tomorrow.
Yeah,
morning.
because the issue is only on maybe commissioners and plus anchoring those key issues.
Politics.
Yeah, to make the body credible, to make sure they meet the 11 dimensions, which include even the political process of the parties nominating people. That should be transparent.
Yes.
IEBC, if it worked well, should have been in charge of nomination to ensure there's fair play right from the grassroots up to the top, the arbitration and all that. It's easy.
That's why I'm offering to do this to have a solution to it.
You're offering this to, you're saying this
but
because you're presidential.
But they should be, Mark, there should be purity of thought and passion and honesty.
Sounds all good, but the viewer watching,
it's
you
doable.
have,
It's doable.
as a Media Owners Association chair, you have
we are
numbers
involved. We have a group which I cannot talk about, but we have got a group that is really moving and is not sleeping, trying to have the thing done that quickly.
I'm challenging that group to be the mediator and to not just act behind the scenes, but
this
call
group that is mediating,
Mark,
this group that is mediating is not working secretly and not working for anyone. They have already engaged both sides. That is why I was.
But some would say in mediation process you can't be out in the public.
But as she
until you have
says,
some agreement.
once it is refined and we are sending those signals
Then
into
you
the
go.
public, I think in another 1 or 2 days, the clergy who are part of that group and a number of guys will make statements. But it is doable, and he has agreed. This gentleman is brilliant. When he says it's doable, and
You're pitching for him again.
No,
You're winning over the panel.
No. Me, I stand for Uhuru. So that people know openly, Uhuru Kenyatta, so that people know that
as a Media Owners Association chair.
I, as a person, I'm talking of as a guy. I have a right, constitutional right. No, and he will tell you, I have a constitutional right also to make a choice because they have made. I've done that because they have made, and so that you don't tell me.
I'm my friend. Because you see, when he made fun of his first statement, I was a bit suspect. And that is why I caution that the voice of the media owners it's not necessarily the voice of the media.
No, I think this
have to wind up.
Tricky. We have also contacted under the same. We have also contacted the opposition. We also want to meet them. So we are not operating in secrecy or in.
Oh my word! We have to wrap up.
You know, it was Joseph Stalin who said, and this is for me is important. Those who cast the vote decide nothing. Those who count the vote decide everything. That's why we must fix IEBC.
Can I end it at that?
Yes.
And Elvis Kimani, among the many who've written in, thank you for your responses. This is the healthiest discussion about court demos so far. Good job. This episode deserves a rerun, and it will be rerun tomorrow 9 to 10 a.m. And as other meetings that will be going on tomorrow, Kura Yangu, Sauti Yangu, they say they have a meeting tomorrow. Even the parliamentary group led by Chepkonga will be meeting the editors tomorrow morning to chart the way forward and to share the progress that has been made. And this story continues to unravel as we get into the week. They say this will take a week or day or two. Let's hope someone will probably get to this sense. And I will leave you with the musings of our resident reporter. Thank you for watching Press Plus, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for making this, especially for Elvis Kimani, one of the healthiest discussion he says that he has witnessed, and for challenging the media. And of course, let's see what our resident reporter Kenyajui makes of the contrasting pictures where one day the opposition leaders and government were laughing and spewing venom at each other the next. Here is his report.
Following the IEBC stalemate, court leaders honored an invitation by the president to State House ahead of the Madaraka Day celebrations, and many Kenyans thought that this was to find a solution to the delicate situation. But judging from the series of events following the meeting, guesswork investigations suspect that the court leaders may have visited State House to apply for more tear gas. Despite the meeting between CORD and Jubilee leaders, Shishamade still resumed on Monday the 6th, begging the questions: who is playing who, and why is burning tires among the top options of Kenyans to express their tiredness, and most importantly, what's in a tear gas canister that Kenyans crave for that much. This morning, the courts allowed the demonstrations by CORD, and according to Senator Mudhama,
we are doing this to demand for the rights of Kenyans, and we are telling Jubilee government, if you don't accept dialogue to take place, and note this, We have been doing this on Mondays. We are going to make it now Monday and Thursday.
From this bite, we recommend that the industries that supply Kenya with tear gas be pushed to produce them as products with a warning, now that Kenyans may find themselves consuming tear gas twice a week. An interesting observation that we made, there is a massive contrast in the numbers of policeman ratio to wananchi compared to the ratio between policemen to demonstrators. The fate of Shisha Mondays, soon to be Shisha Mondays and Thursdays, or who knows, maybe Shisha Weekly, is yet to be decided. In the meantime, there's something that Kenyans can make a decision on. Till when are we going to fight and exchange words over a bunch of friends? Give us a date. Representing the Guesswork Fraternity on Press Pass, it is the one and only Kenya.